A sealed envelope passed in a dimly lit corridor, carrying the power to shake South Africa's political heartbeat. What was inside left even seasoned insiders breathless. Today, we unravel why Kelly Khumalo's latest revelation to Julius Malema has tongues wagging nationwide, what it means to the EFF's next moves, and how this had changed the public perception of both the star and the firebrand politician. If you uncovered a secret that could redefine a leader's path, would you reveal it? Or guard with your life? Comment below. Truth at any cost or silence for survival. In the charged arena of South African politics, it is rare for an entertainer to become the conduit of information capable of shaking the foundations of political discourse. Yet Kelly Khumalo, known for her chart-topping songs and equally public controversies, found herself carrying a sealed package whose contents were whispered about in hushed tones. Those close to her describe an air of tension in the days leading up to its delivery. This was no casual exchange. The package was wrapped in the weight of consequence, holding the kind of knowledge that could alter reputations and redirect ambitions in the country's highest political circles. When Julius Malema received the package, observers expected the EFF leader's signature fiery response. Instead, his demeanor was marked by an uncharacteristic stillness. Behind his eyes, however, 1,000 calculations seemed to churn. Malema is a politician forged in the furnace of public battles, accustomed to reacting quickly and decisively to threats or opportunities. But this time, the room was filled with silence rather than slogans. Those present recall that he carefully examined the seal without opening it immediately, as though gauging the weight of its significance before deciding on his next move, an act of restraint that only deepened the mystery. The actual exchange did not take place in a public forum or a noisy political rally, but in a discreet office tucked away in Pretoria. Curtains were drawn, and the lighting was dim enough to obscure expressions from any potential prying eyes. Kelly arrived in understated attire, blending into the environment rather than standing out. 2 aides were posted outside the door to ensure the meeting went uninterrupted. Inside, the voices were low, the pacing deliberate, and the air thick with unspoken implications. This was the kind of environment where history often takes its first quiet breath before becoming headline news. The path this package traveled before reaching Malema is as intriguing as its contents. It did not go from Kelly's hands directly to his. Instead, it passed through a web of intermediaries. A trusted friend of hers first delivered it to a contact in Johannesburg, who then transferred to another in Polokwane, before it finally arrived in Pretoria. Each handoff occurred in a different setting: a coffee shop, a parking garage, a roadside stop, always brief, always careful. At every stage, the instructions were clear: no opening, no discussion. It was a choreography of secrecy that hinted at high stakes. Although the envelope itself remained sealed in public view, whispers began circulating about what it might contain. The most persistent rumors described a dossier of names and transactions, some involving well-known business magnates, others connected to influential political figures. Those who claimed to have caught glimpses spoke of photocopied contracts, bank statements, and perhaps even confidential correspondence. The tantalizing detail that drew the most attention was an alleged set of handwritten notes in a style remarkably similar to a figure currently under investigation. Nothing was confirmed, but the mere suggestion of such explosive material was enough to stir speculation. For Kelly, the decision to pass along such material was not without peril. In the often turbulent intersection of celebrity and politics, aligning oneself with a cause, or even appearing to, can attract unwanted scrutiny. Sources close to her say she weighed the potential fallout for weeks, torn between personal safety and the moral impulse to act. The act of handing over the envelope was, in itself, a gamble. It could insulate her from certain political threats by positioning her as an ally, or it could expose her to entirely new dangers from those who preferred the contents remain buried. With the envelope now in his possession, Malema faced a political decision with no easy path forward. Using the information could strengthen his party's leverage, particularly in upcoming parliamentary debates. But it could also fracture delicate relationships within his network of political allies and supporters. Those who know his political style say he thrives on bold moves, yet this situation demanded a kind of subtlety not often associated with him. It was a test of whether he could balance his instinct for confrontation with the need for calculated diplomacy, especially when the wrong step could trigger a political chain reaction. The public reaction to any potential revelation from the envelope could be as unpredictable as the political implications. In the digital age, narratives form and spread within minutes, amplified by social media platforms where supporters and detractors alike weaponize every detail. For Malema, releasing the information could energize his base while alienating moderate voters. For Kelly, her involvement could either recast her as a figure of courage or reinforce polarizing perceptions. Public sentiment is a volatile force in South Africa's political theater, and in matters as charged, it can tip the balance in ways no strategist can fully control. As murmurs about the envelope swirled, a new twist emerged. Claims that it contained not only documents, but also a discreetly stored audio file. According to those privy to second-hand accounts, the file allegedly captured a closed-door conversation between political power brokers. The voices, if authentic, were unmistakable, the kind that could not be mistaken for mere impersonations. This supposed recording, compressed into a format small enough to be stored on a single USB drive, was said to be crystal clear, with pauses, background noises, and subtle inflections that lent an unsettling realism. The mere existence of such an artifact could change everything. The timing of Kelly's delivery was no accident. It came amid a climate of heightened political scrutiny, where even the smallest leaks were making front-page headlines. Friends say she understood the gravity of the political moment, whispers of corruption probes, whispers of party fractures, and saw an opening. Her decision was informed by more than impulse. It was a deliberate step taken after measuring the rhythm of current events. Waiting too long could mean the information lost its relevance, but moving too soon could undermine its impact. This careful calibration suggested a deep awareness of the political chessboard. Inside the EFF, the envelope sparked an intense debate that went far beyond simple curiosity. Within hours, some members international media outlets picked up the story, convinced that broadcasting Kelly Khumalo's confession as far beyond South Africa's corruption. Major news channels in Europe, North America, arguing that the contents could be weaponized by live updates, or even misinterpreted by the expert analysis. Closed meetings stretched networks highlighted the shocking loss of national guarded tones, while legal commentators debated the ramifications of an open confession. The stakes were obvious. The world was watching one pack that elevated the party standing, and while another detail was legal and political traps from Johannesburg to New York. Even before the EFF had acted, sharing and replaying the courtroom parties were already proving that this case was no longer just the envelope's content had become global. Opposition strategists began whispering. The trial enters its final act, framing the situation clearly as a publicity stunt meant to distract from other pressing proving facts to determine the appropriate punishment. Some admitted their unease of preparing for a high-stakes that a well-timed revelation could derail legislative agendas or discredit knowing that a verdict will likely bring decades of unresolved contingency plans being drafted. The courtroom that once echoed with uncertainty now resonates coordinated with social media pushes and Kelly Khumalo's words have set history in motion. It was as nation everyone justice to take its air pressure drop. Kelly Khumalo's coming storm didn't the South African media landscape thrives on stories that blend political speculation, silence, and legal maneuvering. If even a fraction of the rumors surrounding the envelope proved true, she changed the way history will remember the cycles for weeks, turning whispered doubts scramble into undeniable interviews. The echoes of that columnist would dissect every angle from here on. Late night commentators would turn into fodder for biting and bracing for the final judgment. Television panels would pit political analysts against cultural critics, debating not only the contents but the motivations behind their release. The interplay between fact and speculation would feed headlines endlessly, ensuring that the story refused to fade quietly into the background. Handling the envelope's alleged material was not just a political gamble. It was a legal one. South African defamation laws, though protecting free speech to a degree, also provide strong remedies for reputational harm. If the documents contained unverified allegations, releasing them without corroboration could trigger lawsuits that dragged on for years. There was also the possibility that some of the contents were classified, opening the door to criminal charges for unauthorized possession or disclosure. Malema and his advisors would need to tread carefully, weighing their desire to act against the very real possibility of legal retaliation. The intersection of celebrity influence and political upheaval is not without precedent. Decades earlier, a prominent South African actor had passed sensitive information to a political activist, sparking an uproar that rippled across the country's cultural and political spheres. Internationally, figures like Jane Fonda and Bono had, in their own ways, intervened in political causes with dramatic impact. These parallels reminded observers that Kelly's actions, while unusual, were not entirely without historical echo. Such moments often shifted public perception, challenging the boundaries between entertainment and governance in ways that left lasting imprints on the national narrative. Even as some hailed the courage it might take to hand over such material, there was an undercurrent of potential backlash that neither Kelly nor Malema could ignore. Public opinion is volatile, and narratives can turn swiftly. Supporters might initially see the act as a noble blow against corruption, only to later view it as opportunistic meddling. The entertainment industry, too, has its own codes, and some of Kelly's peers might distance themselves to avoid association with controversy. Online, the battleground would be fierce, with hashtags both celebrating and condemning her, reflecting the deep divides in South Africa's cultural and political life. The saga of Kelly Khumalo's envelope remains suspended in a tense stillness, like a note held too long in a song that refuses to resolve. The whispers surrounding its contents have transformed a quiet handoff into a national conversation, drawing in politicians, celebrities, media figures, and ordinary citizens alike. For Julius Malema, the decision is no longer about whether the information matters. It is about how and when to use it, and what price he is willing to pay for unleashing it into the public sphere. For Kelly, the act has already placed her on a path that cannot be retraced. The moment she handed over the package, she stepped into a political arena that is far less forgiving than the stage lights she is used to. Every appearance she makes now, every interview, every song release, will be filtered to the lens of her involvement in this episode. Around them, the political winds are shifting. Allies are watching with measured patience, rivals with sharpened anticipation, and the public with restless curiosity. In a nation accustomed to rapid cycles of scandal and spectacle, there is something different here. A sense that when the seal on that envelope is finally broken, the fallout will not be contained to one party, one celebrity, or one headline. And so, the country waits. Some expect a political earthquake, others a fizzle of overblown rumor. But until the moment the truth is laid bare, the envelope remains more than paper and ink. It is a symbol of secrets, power, and the peril of knowing too much.